Good morning to everyone, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure and honor to be your guest at Impact Days 2022 in the Vienna Hofburg and to present some deliberations and observations about the relevance of the SDGs, particularly SDG 16, and the role and connection to the private sector. SDG 16 brings the importance of peace, justice, rule of law, and strong institutions to our attention. Especially in times like these, it is not necessary to underline the outstanding importance of peace and the destructive forces and consequences of war. Justice is a sister of equality, and rule of law is an instrument to implement justice and vice versa. Strong institutions, finally, are the instrument to keep the different elements of Goal 16 in shape. A society without strong institutions will lead to chaos, and strong institutions without rule of law will be the source of an authoritarian system. Nevertheless, the past few years have exposed growing global inequalities, especially of the most vulnerable in our societies. Today, 1% of our global population, that means more than 80 million people, have been forcibly displaced from their homes due to persecution or war or violence. We are currently witnessing a political and humanitarian catastrophe at our borders, the war by Russia against Ukraine. We also keep witnessing the deterioration of some democratic institutions, even within the European Union, and human rights violations across the whole planet. Times like these should see intensified multi-stakeholder cooperation, solidarity, and advocacy for the SDGs. I have worked in policy many years. I realized that it was said already, and the experience as president of this country is very useful to continue or to transfer it to the next generations. I know how difficult it is to build awareness and a positive opinion in the public sphere on a specific issue. But the SDGs are and have to be an exception. Why, could you say? My opinion is that you cannot bargain with the climate and the environment of our planet. We have only one planet and no planet B. With the SDGs, we are not only in the realm of politics, but also in the realm of natural sciences and facts. We are also in the realm of international law and justice. Holistically, dear friends, the 17 SDGs are a compact program for a more prosperous and peaceful life and have relevance in every country and society around the world. The SDGs are, in my opinion, I would call it a world government's program, encompassing 17 universal and crucial goals, and particularly SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, is very dear to my brain and to my heart, and plays a vital role in our political thinking and in political practice. I'm happy to see that businesses also want to increase their impact on good governance anti-corruption, rule of law, and of course, peace. Successfully implementing the SDGs is indeed a multi-stakeholder effort and must be a multi-stakeholder effort. However, a far-reaching world government program cannot be the agenda of only a few stakeholders. This agenda needs to include everybody and every individual, every community, every government, and businesses and academia as well. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development also reflects human rights standards and is deeply rooted in international human rights law. The pledge of the SDGs, I quote, "to leave no one behind," quote ending, matches the principle of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, saying the wonderful sentence, namely, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Dear friends, fighting against poverty and hunger, for instance, advocating for good health and good education, and working against gender inequalities and in favor of effective climate protection are all part of the SDGs. But, as I have said already at the beginning, an overarching goal, in my opinion, is goal number 16, namely peace, justice, and strong institutions. Nobel Prize winner Willy Brandt, whom I appreciated very much, once said, "Peace is not everything, but everything is nothing without peace." Indeed, peace plays a central role if we want to successfully implement the 2030 Agenda and are ready for a just and humane society. Societies that are built around effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions are societies that are resilient when faced with crises. SDG 16, with its 12 targets, presents a tool to rebuild societies if they are hit by a crisis, to be more resilient in the future. Justice is also part of SDG 16, and human rights are part of justice. Strong institutions are necessary instruments of a functioning democratic society. Only if parliaments and governments and courts and other institutions are well functioning and fair, only then can a political system really serve the people and fulfill their duties. They are all interconnected, and like governments, businesses operate best in peaceful environments with effective institutions in place. Sustainable business practices, which are human-centered and uphold the rule of law, they create a stable work environment and ensure long-term business success. Businesses can also fight corruption, uphold labor rights, and increase community engagement by being responsible partners through the chain of production. Profit should never stand above human rights, and exploitation never above sustainable and ethical production. Dear friends, so I hope that your respective businesses and entities become champions of the innovative global agenda by raising awareness about the interconnectedness of the SDGs, implementing in particular SDG 16, and critically analyzing and re-evaluating their code of conduct and policies. Indeed, many companies have already realized the tremendous business opportunities that are enshrined in these goals. And that is not only the task of governments and civil society organizations. Also, many Austrian companies are successfully championing the SDG implementation in their respective work with their corporate social responsibility and sustainability reports. When talking about SDG 16 and human rights, we should also not forget that this entails women's rights, migrants' rights, rights for people with disabilities, LGBTQ rights, and indigenous rights. Promoting SDG 16 in your businesses should also mean promoting diversity and inclusive decision-making. SDG 16, dear friends, coupled with SDG 5, gender equality, and SDG 10, reduced inequalities, is paving the way for SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. In times like now, in times like these, we also must improve and restore multilateralism and international cooperation. Through this, we can get back on track and make the SDGs reality. We need each and every one of the 17 SDGs to build back a better future after the global shock of a former economic crisis, of COVID-19 pandemic, and the war of Russia against Ukraine. Without progress on SDG 16, implementing other areas of the 2030 agenda will be increasingly difficult. We as global citizens have a responsibility to identify systemic challenges and come together to implement the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. Therefore, I'm calling on the private sector to use its enormous influence and resources to stand up in favor of social stability and justice and protection of human rights and the rule of law. Let us in particular work together with young people and include marginalized voices. Without their ideas, bravery, and leadership, we are leaving out great potential and expertise to solve the many planetary challenges we are currently facing. That's what I wanted to tell you, and I want to thank you for your interest, for your activities, and I wish you all the best for your discussions today and further on for your future work and activities. Thank you very much.
Bleiben wir noch kurz da. Na, bleiben wir noch kurz.
Okay.
Dr. Fischer, thank you so much for your input. I was wondering, you were talking about a big goal, a peaceful and just society. And I feel like often the biggest goals have to start very small within ourselves. And I'm wondering, in all these years that you've been working towards this big goal, what is it that you have learned about yourself that has helped you to continue on this path?
Well, I think for my personal development, the year I was born played a big role, namely the year 1938. That means before the German occupation in Austria, before World War II started in 1939, and the war from 1939 to 1945 is still very in my mind. I remember to go to the shelter in the night, to be nervous, to hear the bombing, to feel the shaking of the earth. And even after 1945, The situation was very difficult. Austria was occupied. Human rights were violated. Rule of law was not guaranteed because Austria was occupied with foreign soldiers. And that means that for me, human rights and justice and rule of law and peace in particular, that's the basis of my political and humane thinking.
Thank you so much for also sharing this personal reflection. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Heinz Fischer.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Ich danke Ihnen.